Ron DeSantis. Rhonda, your political career is over.
Now, this country is in trouble, and the elites that have put us here, they don't care about you. They don't care that you're having to grapple with higher grocery prices or have higher gas prices. They don't care that your family's less secure because of the open border that's allowed drugs and even terrorists to come into this country. Well, I care. I am not going to sit idly by and let this country
Yawn.
continue its downward spiral. We need leadership, and we need it now. I'll take the hits, I'll take the arrows, I'll take the slings, because ultimately it's not about me. It's about you. I will fight for you. I will make sure to lead this country's revival, and I will win for you and your family. Actions speak louder than words. We don't have time for excuses, and it's not something that we're going to be able to have all these distractions. As a veteran, I will get the job done. Now, if you look where we are now, it's a lot different than where we were in 2016. And Donald Trump's a lot different guy than he was in 2016. He owes it to you to be on this stage and explain why he should get another chance. He should explain why he didn't have Mexico pay for the border wall. He should explain why he racked up so much debt. He should explain why he didn't drain the swamp. And he said Republicans were going to get tired of winning. Well, we saw last night, I'm sick of Republicans losing. In Florida, I showed how it's done. 1 year ago here, we want a historic victory, including a massive landslide right here in Miami-Dade County. That's how we have to do it. So I promise you this, as the nominee next November, I'll get the job done. And as president, I will deliver.
Election, Ron, without Donald Trump. The only thing Trump needs to explain is why he didn't help out Kevin McAllister more on that movie, Home Alone. That's the only thing Trump needs to explain is why didn't you help out Kevin McAllister a little bit more in that movie, Home Alone? Mexico did pay for the wall, Ron. Do your homework, Rhonda. And look, he couldn't drain the swamp because every 2 seconds, his advisors were running behind him and plugging up the drain. And also, I don't think the crowd here at the RNC debate last night really cared about Rhonda's attempt to blast Donald Trump and to attack Donald Trump. You got to take a listen to this. A Trump chant broke out at the RNC yesterday. This should tell you all you really need to know. There was a Trump chant at the RNC debate. The NBC producer freaked out and started yelling at people to stop chanting for Donald Trump. Here we go.
Okay, so that was awesome, you guys, but that's the last time we're going to do that, right? Because we really, really, really want to hear from these candidates, and they worked really hard for us tonight, okay? So we're so excited. Okay, so that was awesome.
Trump. That was awesome, you guys, but that's going to be the last time we do anything like that ever again, okay? Or else. A Trump chant breaking out at the RNC debate, the NBC producer yelling at them to stop. This shows you all you really need to know. The people want Trump. And that NBC lady, why is she talking to the audience like they're a bunch of 5-year-olds? Vivek, he had an amazing night. I watched the debate last night. There's so many clips I've got to play from the debate. Vivek was just amazing. And these clips won't be played on mainstream media. I mean, this was live. This is how he got this information out there because it was live and they couldn't cut to commercial. Okay. But Vivek, he was on one and I love this. I think I've listened to this probably about 100 times this morning. This is just the best thing to come out of the RNC debate last night. Take a listen.
Why should you be the nominee and not the former president?
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer in the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership, asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party. You think the Democrats, and we've got Kristen Welker here, you think the Democrats would actually hire Greg Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate? They wouldn't do it. And so the fact of the matter is, I mean, Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real or was that Hillary Clinton made up disinformation? Answer the question. Go.
Mr. Ross.
Yeah.
This is how we get our country back. We need accountability because this media rigged the 2016 election.
Yep.
They rigged the 2020 election with the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
And they're going to rig this election.
your time is up.
Accountability.
Let me turn to
That's how
Governor
the United States
Christie.
country.
Why you?
You're spouting truth, and we can't have that. So we gotta get to a different candidate here on stage who won't spew out facts. Yes, go Vivek Ramaswamy. It's time we see people stand up for what they believe in. Dancing around the important issues for the sake of appearing civil or gracious is just overrated, and I'm sick and tired of it. If you're fighting for the very survival of your country, you're not going to dance around the important issues. Let's talk about the fact that we've got NBC moderating a GOP primary debate. It should be Tucker Carlson up there. It should be even Joe Rogan, Elon Musk. They're not even people on the right. We've got leftists moderate, rabid leftists who pushed the Russia collusion hoax for years and peddled it on NBC. The Hunter Biden laptop story, they suppressed that. And I've pointed this out multiple times, several times. Why in the hell are Democrats not doing primary debates? It doesn't make any sense. There's other candidates for the presidency on the Democrat side of the aisle, but they're not hosting debates. Well, Vivek, he had a message for the Democrat Party last night. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I just wanted to jump right into the debate from last night. I watched some of it this morning. I woke up early, watched the debate. And look, Vivek, he definitely won. He won that debate. And I like Vivek. I don't trust him. There's a lot of things about Vivek that I'll get into later in the show that make me not want to trust him. However, he said all of the right things on that debate stage last night, and Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie definitely said all of the wrong things. But here's Vivek and his message to the Democrat Party. I don't understand, and you're probably scratching your head at home, why in the world would the Democrats not be hosting primary debates like the Republicans are? There are other candidates on the Democrat side of things. I mean, there's Democrat presidential candidates, but they're not hosting debates. Why is that? Probably because they know Joe Biden will not be the nominee. And Vivek talked about that last night.
I also want to close with one message to the Democrat Party. End this farce that Joe Biden is going to be your nominee. We know he's not even the president of the United States. He's a puppet for the managerial class. So have the guts to step up and be honest about who you're actually going to put up so we can have an honest debate. Biden should step aside, end his candidacy now so we can see whether it's Newsom or Michelle Obama or whoever else.
All right,
just
Mr.
tell us the
Ramaswamy,
truth so we can have an
Time
honest
is
debate.
up. Ambassador.
I also want to close with
Stop with the shadow campaign. Stop with the shadow campaign, running Gavin Newsom, sending Gavin Newsom over to China to hang out with Xi Jinping and play basketball with a bunch of children and mow those children down while playing basketball. Stop with the shadow campaign for Gavin Newsom. Just come out and tell us who the nominee is going to be. And look, folks, I love how the neocons like Nikki Haley got called out last night. So it took a Hindu on a Republican debate stage to call out the persecution of Christians in Ukraine. None of the other candidates have brought that up so far. And Vivek, he was going after Ukraine. And the thing of it is, I've talked with folks, good folks, who think that, this is just good versus evil. Russia is evil and Ukraine is good. That's not true. Ukraine is a terrible country. It's a corrupt country. It's not a democratic country. They have no democratic principles, no foundation. They are a terrible country, and our money is going over there. $135 billion. You know how many border walls we could have built with that? Probably about 20. I think it was going to cost like $30 billion for the border wall on the southern border. $135 billion. We could make every homeless veteran here in America a millionaire. We could give them $2 million each. The families in Maui, let's put this into perspective. The families in Maui who lost everything, we could give each family $50 million and make a family in Maui millionaires overnight if we wanted to with that money. Instead, we're giving it to a country like Ukraine. You're like, well, Ukraine is a good country. No, they're not. They're not a NATO country, and they're terrible. Here's Vivek last night.
Ramaswamy, are you persuaded by President Zelensky's urgent new plea?
I'm absolutely unpersuaded. And I'm actually enjoying watching the Ukraine Hawks quietly, delicately tiptoe back from their position as this thing has unwound into a disaster. The first half of this race, I was the only person standing for it. Now they're actually quietly coming around to being more cautious, as they should. Level with the American people here. Ukraine is not a paragon of democracy. This is a country that has banned 11 opposition parties. It has consolidated all media into one state TV media arm. That's not democratic. It has threatened not to hold elections this year unless the U.S. forks over more money. That is not democratic. It has celebrated a Nazi in its ranks, the comedian in cargo pants, a man called Zelensky, doing it in their own ranks. That is not democratic. More facts for you that you won't hear from the mainstream in either party or the mainstream media. The regions of Ukraine that are occupied by Russia right now in the Donbass, Luhansk, Donetsk, these are Russian-speaking regions that have not even been part of Ukraine since 2014. Those are the hard facts. And so to frame this as some kind of battle between good versus evil, don't buy it. And I'd like the likes of the sharpest of the war hawks on Ukraine, Nikki Haley, to have some accountability and answer. Do you want to use U.S. taxpayer money to fund the banning of Christians? That is actually what's happening. They're using the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. They have banned them. The Ukrainian parliament just did this last week, supported by our dollars. And I think you owe it to the American people, Nikki, to at least this one time
Ramaswamy, thank you. That's time.
At least to condemn their banning of Christians.
Mr. Ramaswamy.
Go get him, Vivek. You can see Nikki Haley's face. She is squirming. Ron DeSantis is squirming because he's saying the things that he's not allowed to say. Okay. It took a Hindu. He's not even a Christian to call out the persecution of Christians in Ukraine that's going on right now. Vivek was calling out Ukraine for its undemocratic banning of opposition parties. They've banned, what was it? He said 11 opposition parties. I told you yesterday that they're not even going to be holding a 2024 election. And make no mistake, America will be watching. We're going to be watching how that plays out, and we're going to be taking notes. And we might not have a 2024 election. And don't take my word for it. Look at the Atlantic, their headlines. Look at the New York Times. Look at their headlines. Do we even need elections? Our mainstream media is undermining our sovereignty as we speak via their headlines. They're attacking your amygdala. They're trying to get you to think that we don't need elections. And we're supporting Christians being persecuted in Ukraine with our taxpayer money. The only thing that Vivek didn't mention, now he did mention that Zelensky is a Nazi and he's just a Nazi in cargo shorts, which was hilarious. But he didn't talk about how Zelensky he appointed an ambassador. You think Ukraine is all great? No, it's not. It's not a battle between good versus evil. Russia bad, Ukraine good. It's not that at all. Zelensky, he appointed an ambassador who is a Satanist, and who she invited Tony Podesta, the Podesta brothers, who worked on the Hillary Clinton campaign. There's an email. It was a WikiLeaks email. There's an email where the ambassador, who is a self-proclaimed Satanist, there's an email where she who was appointed by Zelensky, she invites the Podesta brothers to a spirit cooking. Look that up, folks. It's true. She's a Satanist. Their ambassador of that country participates in spirit cookings with people on the Hillary Clinton campaign. Nikki Haley suggested that we stop sending money over to Ukraine, but instead we send guns and ammunition. Well, that's kind of weird. I mean, that's kind of all like funny money, right? What are you talking about? It takes money to buy those guns and ammunitions. And the reason why she wants to send guns and ammunitions over to Ukraine and to stop sending just big old checks is because she makes money off of the military contracts made up with companies like Boeing. She sits on the board of Boeing. Vivek Ramaswamy pointed that out last night. Vivek's foreign policy is just better when it comes to, and they're going to say he doesn't have any foreign policy experience and that he's, misguided. Neither did Donald Trump, though. Donald Trump didn't have any foreign policy experience. And look at his presidency. We had peace in the Middle East. We had no new wars under President Donald Trump. No new wars. And Vivek's foreign policy is just better because when it comes to Israel, he is not for going over there, having our guys be sitting ducks, because that's what's going on right now. We've got soldiers over there. They're on these aircraft carriers, and it just takes one missile, and they could strike one of those aircraft carriers, and our guys are dead. And then there you have it. We're in it. We're in World War III. And Vivek, he says, no, we shouldn't be sending over money. We should, yes, stand behind Israel morally. And I don't think that his foreign policy went far enough. I don't think he talked enough about how Joe Biden is giving money to all of these so-called friendly Arab nations. They're not friendly Arab nations. Yemen, Syria, Libya. We need to divest from all of those countries who continue to attack Israel. Yeah, sure, Egypt might be our friend today, but 5 years from now, who knows what they'll do to Israel? These countries, these Arab nations, we need to divest from all of these adversarial countries, and we need to let Israel turn Gaza into glass themselves, and they need to stop funding both sides of this war, because that's what's been going on under Obama, under Barack Obama, under Joe Biden. Joe Biden gave $6 billion to Iran. Nikki Haley wants to get into an endless war with Iran. This is, and Vivek, I get that he doesn't have foreign policy experience, but his foreign policy was so much better than any of those people up there, because all of them were a bunch of neocons looking to get into war. Chris Christie got up there and he goes, oh, well, we should give money to, the friendly Arab nations. Why? That's the problem. We keep giving monies to these other nations, and eventually it gets into the wrong hands. It gets into Hezbollah's hands. It gets into Hamas's hands, and then they commit these atrocities like the terror attack on October 7th. Look, I love it. He really peeved the media off last night. Vivek Ramaswamy. I've got more. He went after Ronna McDaniel. There's all kinds of drama about Ronna McDaniel and what happened after the debate. They were seen, at least NBC was reporting that they appeared to be having a heated conversation. So we're going to be getting into all of that here on the Morning Buzz. 309-451-9299. Plus, I do want to also chat about Donald Trump, his trial. He said that this is political warfare. He's defending his business record in this heated testimony against this judge who was just rabid. And then Karen Jean-Pierre, she's refusing to denounce Hamas supporters ripping down hostage posters, and she won't comment on that particular thing. I want to get to all of that here on the Morning Buzz. It's Cities 92.9. Good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're watching, go ahead and smash that like button. We're going to be chatting a little bit about Vivek Ramaswamy going after Ronna McDaniel. Look, folks, I know Vivek is running for president of the United States, and I think he'd make a great VP. However, what I really think Vivek would be good at is being an RNC chair. I really do. He's young. He understands data. He's fed up with the party like the rest of us are, and he could raise a ton of cash. He really could. And he's innovative, and he hasn't alienated the base. Vivek Ramaswamy, RNC chair. I think that that would be a great move. We're going to be chatting how he went after Ronna McDaniel on stage. It was explosive. CNN has some new polls having Trump beating Biden. Um, we're going to talk about black voters and how they are overwhelmingly for Trump all of a sudden, and how, CNN is big mad about all of that. So we're going to chat here on the Morning Buzz. Go ahead, smash the like button if you're watching. Whew. I know that Vivek Ramaswamy is running for president, but I will say this. I think that he would make a great RNC chair. He's young, he understands data, he's fed up with the party like the rest of us, and he could raise a ton of money, a ton. And he's innovative, and he hasn't alienated the base. Vivek for RNC chair, I'm for it. You've peeved the media off. uh, if you've peeved the media off after a debate, you've won. So this is NBC in their coverage after the debate. Right after the debate, they get on there. They start kind of doing a play-by-play, talking about the candidates. And Vivek actually appears to be having a conversation with Ronna McDaniel. I played the clip where he goes after her. Uh, let's take a listen. Here we go.
McDaniel can't make her out exactly, but it looks like they may be having the exchange. Look, this was a big debate. Vivek came out here. He attacked the moderators. He attacked the media. He attacked the RNC for setting up this debate the way it was. And for a lot of the debate, he was on the attack. It was Vivek first, the rest of the room. When we look at the rest of the candidates and who received a lot of that incoming, we start with Nikki Haley. It then goes to Governor Ron DeSantis, who was center stage, of course, the hometown hero, if you will, in his state of Florida. And then Vivek in third place, getting other attacks as well. But he clearly was on offense. It looks like he's speaking.
Yeah, he was on offense. Good. Vivek Ramaswamy going after Ronna McDaniel. So it looks like they had a heated discussion after the debate with the RNC chair, Ronna McDaniel, as the debate stage and as everything ended and the candidates started to file out. It looks like he's bent over talking to Ronna McDaniel, and it looks like they're having a heated discussion. Now, during the debate, Vivek Ramaswamy called out Ronna McDaniel for her record losses. Yesterday, I told you about Andy Bashir. Andy Bashir won. He's a Democrat in Kentucky. Although, Trump won Kentucky by like 25% in 2020, I believe it was. I think it was in 2020 he won Kentucky by 25%. How in the world is Kentucky putting in a Democrat governor, especially a Democrat governor who lies like Andy Bashir? It makes no sense. But when you start to look at the record and you start to hold these people accountable, like Ronna McDaniel, then it starts to become clear. It starts to become clear that Ronna McDaniel is the reason why we keep losing, why Republicans keep losing. So there was a source sitting near Ronna McDaniel who told Timcast News that she was not attempting to keep her voice quiet or lowered, as she called him an arsehole. I'm not going to say the whole word on air, but and she declared, and she broke a rule actually, because you're not allowed to get involved in primaries, the RNC. But she declared that the party wasn't going to give him a cent. That's breaking a rule. Okay. So last night, Ronna said to Vivek, according to the source, that you're not going to get a cent from us. Ronna publicly broke a sacred RNC rule not to get involved in primaries. She needs to immediately resign. She needs to immediately resign. And I want to ask this question too. Why did it take 42 minutes for the Salem Hugh Hewitt. He's the only conservative moderator that was there that night. It took him 42 minutes to get his first question in. We should have had Tucker Carlson moderating that debate, but we didn't because Ronna McDaniel sucks. So the source also said that Ronna McDaniel loudly booed Vivek Ramaswamy during his exchange with Nikki Haley. He talks about Nikki Haley wearing being Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels. I've got to play this for you. You guys are going to really like it. But this was the exchange he had with Nikki Haley, where allegedly Ronna McDaniel booed, according to this source, who told Tim, or a Timcast news source. So here
You
we
and
go.
the candidates we just heard on this issue, on what you would tell the prime minister?
Not in terms of what I would tell the prime minister, no. In fact, I would go one step further. The founding vision of Israel was based on the idea that they don't want to depend on anybody else's sympathy or direction in defending themselves. So what I would tell Bibi is that Israel has the right and the responsibility to defend itself. I would tell him to smoke those terrorists on his southern border, and then I'll tell him as president of the United States, I'll be smoking the terrorists on our southern border. That's his responsibility. This is our responsibility. That's how we move forward. But I want to be careful to avoid making the mistakes from the neocon establishment of the past. Corrupt politicians in both parties spent trillions, killed millions, made billions for themselves in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, fighting wars that sent thousands of our sons and daughters, people my age, to die in wars that did not advance anyone's interests, adding $7 trillion to our national debt. And Joe Biden sold off our foreign policy. Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, got a $5 million bribe from Ukraine. That's why we're sending $200 billion back to that same country. The fact of the matter is the Republican Party is not that much better. You have the likes of Nikki Haley, who stepped down from her time at the UN. Bankrupt or in debt was her family. Then she becomes a military contractor. She joins the board of Boeing and otherwise, and is now a multimillionaire. So I think that that's wrong when Republicans do it or Democrats do it. That's the choice we face. Do you want a leader from a different generation who's going to put this country first? Or do you want Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels?
All right, Mr.
In which case, we've got
Ramaswamy.
two of them on stage
Mr.
tonight.
Ramaswamy, thank you. Senator,
I love it. Do you want Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels? And then he goes, because we've got two of them on stage tonight. And of course, he's referring to Rhonda. Yes, they're Rhonda, him and Nikki Haley, they're just Dick Cheney in heels. That's it. So apparently, Ronna McDaniel, after he said that comment about Nikki Haley being Dick Cheney in heels, she booed him, according to the person she was sitting nearby. So she is in complete meltdown over Vivek. Ronna McDaniel is, and this was in the middle of this audience, within earshot of at least 50 people, where she calls him an arsehole and says that she's not going to give him a cent. And she broke the rule. They're not supposed to be getting involved in primaries, the RNC. It's a sacred rule that they've got. Ramaswamy demanded that McDaniel get up on stage and publicly resign for her failures. To have Andy Beshear reelected in Kentucky, in red state, what used to be a red state, a state that went overwhelmingly for Trump in 2020. Why in the world have they got a Democrat governor? It makes no sense. And I like how Ramaswamy asked this. Do you think Democrats would ever hire a Greg Gutfeld to moderate a Democrat debate? If they even had him, right? Democrats don't even hold debates anymore because they're the undemocratic party. NBC News initially said on air that Vivek appeared to be speaking with Ronna McDaniel. Now Ronna McDaniel is coming out and telling NBC that the two didn't have a conversation post-debate. But when you look at the footage, it looks like Ronna McDaniel is actually speaking with Vivek Ramaswamy. So Vivek hasn't commented yet, but I'll be looking out for that this morning here on The Buzz. We are going to take a break. A new CNN poll is out having Donald Trump up on Joe Biden. Also, Trump beating Biden with voters under 35. Trump is winning when it comes to the black voters. Black voters, 51% say that there's no chance that they'd vote for Biden, 48% for Trump. There's this really cool poll that I'm going to dig into. Plus, you won't believe it. This Democrat rep, it's a Joe Biden representative. She's on CNN, I think, and she's talking about black voters and how leaning to Donald Trump, they just don't understand how everything works. And these black voters are just miseducated, or they're uneducated when it comes to Donald Trump, and they need to be educated. Uh, yeah, so we're going to talk about that here coming up on the Morning Buzz. Plus, Kieran Jean-Pierre, again, refusing to denounce Hamas supporters who are going down and ripping down the hostage posters around the city of New York. That's next. Good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Go ahead, smash that like button if you're watching. We are going to be getting to a Democrat representative, Joe Biden representative. She's on air, CNN, talking about how black voters leaning Trump just don't understand how any of this works. So, of course, how Democrats, how they think. If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for Biden or for Trump, then you ain't black, right? We all know that Democrats think that, and this is just proof. So we're going to talk about that, plus Karen Jean-Pierre refusing to denounce Hamas supporters, ripping down these posters that have these hostages on them, and she won't comment on that particular thing. It was truly disgusting. We've been talking a lot about the GOP debate last night. More on that just a little bit. It's Friday Eve. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm live in studio, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. You can see me there. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Kat Peterson 929. Today is World Freedom Day. This day commemorates the fall of the Berlin Wall. National Fried Chicken Sandwich Day. Time to debate who has the best chicken sandwich and why. I make a pretty mean chicken sandwich, but I will say that McChickens are pretty fire. I like McChickens, especially with all of the mayo. The spicy McChickens, I'm not a fan of. I don't like those so much. But today is also today. I wanted to also talk about uh, the Democrat representative who said that black voters leaning Trump just don't understand how any of this works. And we know that Democrats think if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for Biden or for Trump, then you ain't black. Okay. We know Democrats think that. Joe Biden is quoted saying that. The election season is right around the corner, which means Democrats will start with their dog whistles. Now, the Democrat Party has made it very clear that they feel entitled to every black vote and every vote in the black community, even though they don't deserve it. The Democrats do not deserve the black vote. Okay, black voters vote. They just don't. They've oppressed black people. Not only do they feel entitled, but they view black people as no more than a political force that is solely meant to serve the interests of the Democrat Party. So we're going to get to that because this woman is on CNN and she talks about how, black voters being and leaning towards Trump now, which a new CNN poll has Donald Trump ahead of Biden in all kinds of cases, especially when it comes to the black community. He's polling very well with black voters. Trump is also beating Biden when it comes to voters under the age of 35. Trump is beating Joe Biden 48% to 47%. That's a very thin margin, but uh, overall, Trump is beating Biden 49 to 45%. Black support for Biden has plummeted by 25 points. Hispanics are evenly split in this latest poll. So we're going to get to that. Plus, Karen Jean-Pierre refusing to denounce these Hamas supporters who are ripping down these signs. So there's these signs, they're like posters, and they have the hostages. We still have hostages over there, American hostages in Israel, and the families are mourning here. Okay, but Karen Jean-Pierre, she's refusing to comment on that particular thing, and she won't denounce the Hamas supporters who are ripping down these hostages posters. So we've been talking a lot about the debate. There were lots of highlights. My favorite part of the debate was definitely listening to, to Vivek Ramaswamy question the RNC on why they're having NBC moderate this debate. Right. And the best question I think that he asked of the RNC, he flipped it around on the moderator, he flipped it around on the RNC. The best question, he was like, would the Democrats have Greg Gutfeld moderate their debate? No. Greg Gutfeld would not be moderating the Democrat debate. So why do we have NBC hacks, people who peddled misinformation, literal misinformation, the Russia collusion hoax? They suppressed the Hunter Biden story. They rigged the 2020 election. They rigged the 2016 election. They tried to rig the 2016 election in favor of Hillary Clinton, but they didn't succeed. That's why every single poll that came out, they had Hillary up because they knew that they were rigging the election quietly behind the scenes, and they called the election for Hillary Clinton. They had every poll out there that said Hillary Clinton's going to win, going to win, going to win, going to win, and then she didn't, which shocked everybody uh, because they were running interference. They were interfering with our election, the media establishment. So Vivek Ramaswamy calls him out. He says, RNC, why would we not have a Tucker Carlson? Why would we not have a Joe Rogan? Why would we not have Elon Musk up here moderating this debate? We would have millions of more views on this debate if those guys were moderating it. But instead, we've got NBC. And then there was maybe one kind of conservative moderator there, Hugh Hewitt. He's from Salem Media. It took him 42 minutes to ask a question at that debate. And then he goes even further, Vivek Ramaswamy. And what I really liked was when he questioned Nikki Haley and pressed Nikki Haley on why does she sit on a board for Boeing? I mean, it's no wonder why she wants to send Ukraine all of these guns and ammunition. She even made it a point to say that she doesn't want to send money to Ukraine anymore, but rather guns and ammunition so they can defend themselves. Why would she want to send guns and ammunition? It's because she sits on the boards where she gets rich off of these military contracts made up with companies like Boeing. Okay, she's making billions off of that war. And then Vivek Ramaswamy, another great thing that he did, he called out Ukraine for being the terrible country that it is. It is not a democratic country. They don't even hold elections. They've done this undemocratic banning of opposition parties. He said that Zelensky was a Nazi in cargo shorts, which was hilarious. One thing that Vivek didn't bring up was that Zelensky appointed an ambassador who is an actual Satanist and invited via an email the Podesta brothers who worked on the Hillary Clinton campaign to a spirit cooking. That's something that Vivek didn't bring up. But I thought it was amazing that it took a Hindu on a Republican debate stage to call out the persecution of Christians in Ukraine. None of the other candidates even brought it up, and that should tell you something. So we are going to be talking about a whole lot here in the 7 o'clock hour. Like I said, live YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Kat Peterson 929. A little bit later today, I'm very excited. I'm going to tell you where you need to be. You need to be in Shanahan, Families of Faith. That's a church out in Shanahan. I'll be there at about 6:30. I'm going to be interviewing Pastor Stephen Lee, who's being indicted alongside President Donald Trump. And the entire event is about how the government has been weaponized against religion and against Christianity specifically. And the government is currently being weaponized against Pastor Stephen Lee in this case, where they're indicting him alongside 17 others, President Donald Trump down in Georgia, big fat Fannie Willis. Via the RICO Act, they're trying to say that Stephen Lee violated the RICO Act, which is just a bunch of nonsense. But we'll talk about it here coming up on the Buzz. Be there, Families of Faith Church. It's in Shanahan. It's about an hour from Bloomington North. So go ahead and head on out tonight at 6:30. I'll be there. Good morning, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. We are going to get to Karen Jean-Pierre and how she refuses to denounce these Hamas supporters ripping down the hostage posters, and she won't even comment on this. And she says, quote, I'm not going to comment on that specific thing, on that particular thing. So let's get to that later, but we are going to talk about the Democrat rep who says that Black voters leaning towards Trump just don't understand. They're just uneducated. That's so racist. No, I think that Black voters understand that the economy was better under Donald Trump and that we didn't have all of these international wars happening. Okay. I think that everybody understands that life was better under President Donald Trump. So that, and I do want to talk about the Trump trial. He says this is political warfare, and then he's defending his business record in this heated testimony. and he goes after the judge a little bit. Donald Trump did. So we're going to cover all of that and more. Like, love, share this program out with your friends. We'll be back. Woohoo! Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. A few things I want to chat about in the 7 o'clock hour. We definitely have to talk about Trump in this trial. He says it was political warfare. He's defending his business record in this heated testimony. We're going to talk about President Donald Trump in this trial because guess where I'm going tonight? I'm going to be up in Shanahan interviewing somebody who's going to be indicted alongside President Donald Trump. He's an Illinois pastor. The government has been weaponized against those who are religious, and we'll chat about it more next. Wow. Rashida Tlaib censured. That's right. So, in bipartisan fashion, the House of Representatives, they actually voted to censure uh, Michigan Democrat Rashida Tlaib, and she continues to defend her comments that are wildly considered as calling for Israel's elimination. So she has made comments, and really, what these comments are, it's it's comments advocating for the eradication of Israel. Okay, and the House said that she was pushing false narratives about the October 7th terror attack, and the House actually voted to censure Rashida Tlaib, which is huge news and very exciting. That is next here on the Buzz. Woohoo! The House, they passed a resolution to censure Rashida Tlaib over her Israel comments, over her comments that advocate for the eradication of Jewish people and advocate for the elimination of the state of Israel. We're going to get to that here coming up in just a little bit. But first, I do want to hit this Democrat representative saying that black voters leaning to Donald Trump and leaning towards Donald Trump just don't understand how any of this works. So she said this on CNN. It was shocking. Kieran Jean Pierre, she's refusing to denounce Hamas supporters ripping down these hostage posters. So people are putting up these posters uh, for the hostages that are over in Israel, and she won't comment on that particular thing. Another thing breaking: 7 Nashville officers were placed on administrative leave in connection to the release of the Nashville Manifesto. The powers that be are more concerned about finding the leaker than they are about the contents of Audrey Hale's anti white manifesto. This is very interesting. And I've been really upset with the police chief there, with the Nashville mayor. I just can't believe it. I just can't believe that they are more concerned about finding the leaker than they are about the actual contents of the manifesto. They did not want that manifesto getting out because they wanted to protect the shooter, because the shooter identified as transgender. That's why they buried this manifesto. They wanted to protect a mass shooter who killed 3 white Christian children because they were white. And I think later on we are going to find out that she killed these people, these 3 children, 3 adults at this covenant school because of their faith. These are Christian martyrs, and the general public has the right to know why these babies were killed, and the manifesto makes that very clear why she did it. And look, I thereafter the Nashville police, they just put on all of these officers, 7 of them, on administrative leave. So we're going to chat about it coming up in just a little bit. Trial, political warfare. It's political warfare. That's what Donald Trump says about this trial, where he defends his business record in this heated testimony. This has to do with him inflating his net worth or inflating his worth, which just isn't true. So we're going to talk about that. But we all know Democrats think if you have a problem figuring out if you're for Biden or for Trump, then you ain't black. Who said that? Oh, yeah, that's right. Joe Biden. The most racist thing that I think you could possibly say. The election season is right around the corner, which means Democrats will start with their dog whistles. And the Democrat Party has made it very, very clear that they feel entitled to every single black vote in the black community, even though they don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, she's a KKK member, and the whole reason for blame it's because she's for the eradication of black people. That's I mean, look at the abortion statistics. Look at look at how many black babies die due to abortion every single year. Margaret Sanger was a member of the KKK, and who props up the Planned Parenthood? Who props them up and loves them? It's the Democrat Party. Anyway, so they not only feel entitled to every vote in the black community, but they also view black people as no more than a political force. They think of black people as a political force that is solely meant to serve the interests of the Democrat Party. This is no surprise since Democrats have fought against every major civil rights initiative in this country's history. Democrats have fought against civil rights. So after a report there's a report out there that implies that black voters in swing states are souring on President Joe Biden. They do not like President Joe Biden anymore, the black voters. He's lost the black vote. Jasmine Crockett is her name. She's a representative for President Joe Biden. And she implied that they are only doing so, that black people are only voting for Donald Trump because they're uninformed and they don't understand how politics works, and they're misinformed. So I've got to talk about this. Dana Bash, she's the host here of CNN's State of the Union, spoke to a panel about a recent report from the New York Times that claimed that black voters who have long been for the Democrats and Joe Biden are now registering 22% support in these states for President Donald Trump. And this is an unseen level in presidential politics for Republican in modern times. So no other Republican has been able to secure that much of a lead when it comes to the black vote other than Donald Trump. This is all according to Fox News. They've got 22% support in these states for Mr. Trump. So Crockett, she's not only shocked, but she's frightened by this realization that the black vote is swinging towards President Donald Trump. She's freaked out by this Crockett woman, the representative. She's a Democrat representative. So I've got to share this with you. It's quite incredible. Jasmine Crockett, she's on CNN, CNN's State of the Union with Dana Bash, the host. And they're talking about these numbers, 22%. Going towards President Donald Trump with the black vote. Here we go.
Here's the deal. Perception is reality. And so when you look at the data that was provided in this poll, it talks about how people feel. And when people decide whether they're going to the poll or whether they're not going to the poll, it's all about how you feel in that moment. And so while the facts may not align with their feelings are dictating their reality. Their reality is that they said that they feel better or they felt better when Trump was in office. But we've been trying to push back. We've got some very popular African-American artists that are out here saying things like, oh, I got checks when Trump was in office. I want those checks again, not understanding that really came from Congress. So we've got a couple of things, the perception issue, and then we also have an issue as it relates to civics in this country and people not understanding exactly how any of this works.
Oh, man. So basically, she said that President Joe Biden's drop in support among Black Americans is because feelings are dictating their reality and they aren't understanding exactly how any of this works. Wow, that's racist. She added that Democrats have been trying to push back against this, even as some very popular African American artists are out there saying things like, oh, I got checks when Trump was in office. I want those checks again, not understanding that they really come from Congress. That's what she said. But no. That's not what these African-American artists, these rappers are saying and why they want President Donald Trump back into office. It's not the checks that she's implying here. People want checks. It's that when President Donald Trump was in office, when these rappers say they want checks, they want their check. Okay, so when Trump was in office, real median household income for Black families rose $4,000 after actually falling over the previous 14 years. Okay, so it rose. The median household income for Black families rose by $4,000. Prior to that, the last 14 years, it was decreasing. It was falling. And when you compare that to the fact that Americans are spending more than $700 a month under President Joe Biden for just bills, way more than $700 a month for just bills, uh, it doesn't take much understanding to know who to vote for. People are waking up. People are starting to see, man, I'm spending way more than I did. My median household income is far less. My check is not, and when they say check, it's not these checks, these I think she was talking about the CARES Act or these checks that came from Congress during COVID-19. I don't know. What these rappers are talking about is their money being taxed. I mean, taxed to death, taxed without no end. Like there's no end. Uh, and our dollar ain't worth it. You know, the Richmond North of Richmond song. That's why it works. It's so good. That song is, it just speaks to everybody, every American, black, white, Hispanic. It doesn't really matter. So then she says this. She says, we've got a couple of things, the perception issue. And then we also have the issue as it relates to civics in this country and people not understanding how exactly any of, or understanding exactly how any of this works. But no one should be surprised since Democrats thrive on the votes of the same people that they have always tried to oppress, going back to the Civil War. Okay, it was the Democrats who kept black people enslaved. Uh, Abraham Lincoln, was a Republican. He freed the slaves via the Emancipation Proclamation. And this has been confirmed by American history that they always tried to thrive on the votes of the same people that they've always tried to oppress. Crockett is wrong, as voters are smart enough to know that Democrat policies, they keep everybody down, especially the black community. She's wrong. Voters understand. And when you compare Biden's term versus Trump's term, it doesn't take a genius to know who lifted people up and whose policies are wreaking havoc on their lives. Joe Biden's policies are wreaking havoc on your life. Although Democrats don't care enough to notice that the black community benefited, I just gave you the numbers there. The median household income for black families rose by $4,000 when you look at the previous 14 years. It was falling, decreasing rapidly. Trump came in and saved the black community, and the black community benefited from Trump's economy. Black voters, they noticed. Okay, Democrats don't care enough to notice, but the black voters noticed. But I guess Democrats just don't understand how any of this works, do they? They just don't understand how any of this works, do they? It just so if you have a problem figuring out if you're for Biden or for Trump, then you ain't black. Just terrible. The Democrat Party is terrible. Okay, Hamas supporting American progressives. Okay, Hamas supporting American progressives have been ripping down these posters of these missing Jewish hostages for over a few weeks now. Okay. So in New York, they've been ripping down these posters. The families of these hostages, they have been putting up their posters with the word missing. And a reporter finally got around to asking the White House spokeswoman, Kiron Jean-Pierre, if the president had a position on the matter, possibly even denouncing these hateful acts of the Hamas supporting American progressives who keep tearing down the posters. Here's the official response from the White House. Let me pull this out here. I want to make sure that I get this right. Here's the official response from the White House. What terrifies me is what terrifies me is if ISIS were to detonate a nuclear device and kill 50 million Americans. Imagine the backlash against peaceful Muslims. I'm just kidding. That wasn't the official White House response. That's actually Norm Macdonald. He actually tweeted this out, folks. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this guy is an idiot. Norm Macdonald. He says, what terrifies me is if ISIS were to detonate a nuclear device and kill 50 million Americans. Imagine the backlash against peaceful Muslims. What? Like, if ISIS were to detonate a nuclear device and kill 50 million Americans, I mean, are we even going to be talking about peaceful? What are you saying, Norm Macdonald? Anyway, I'm just kidding. That was not the official White House response. That's Norm Macdonald and his weird tweet about how if a nuclear device killed 50 million Americans, how that would affect or how that would cause the backlash against peaceful Muslims. Look, folks, there's a problem with anti-Semitism. I'm not going to go over the numbers again, but the FBI, the hate crimes, okay, the hate crimes, when you look at them statistically, over 60% of them that are committed in this country are cases of anti-Semitism. 9%, only 9% of these hate cases or hate crime cases are those in the Islamic community or Muslim community. Okay. So that was a tweet from Norm Macdonald, and it was on my desk. And I actually, what I meant to share was this Joe Biden hiring, the least competent diversity hire, and this NBC journalism Peter Alexander. They had this exchange. The diversity hire, Karen Jean-Pierre and Peter Alexander, the NBC journalismer. Karen Jean-Pierre, you guessed it, gave a non-answer, and she lumped the anti-Semitism in with all of the hate that the Biden administration has been closely monitoring. So I do want to share this with you, Karen Jean-Pierre's response when she was asked about the hate on campus. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
A lot of videos of individuals who have been tearing down signs, many of these taking place in New York City, of Israelis presently being held hostage in Gaza. There have been some tense confrontations that have taken place there. Is the White House's view that these actions should be condemned, the pulling down of them, or that that's a form of peaceful protest?
Look, I've sort of kind of seen the reporting here and there. I think it was from last week,
There's
right?
been like 30 million videos that have gone around.
No, I know, I hear you. I hear you. I'm just not going to, I'm not going to.
Is that peaceful protest to pull that down, or should you not be doing
I'm just
that?
not going to go into specifics on that particular thing. What I can say, there are real violent protests and threats that are happening right now. And senior administration officials are aware of these reports, which are deeply concerning. And that is something that we're focused on.
A non-answer from Karen Jean-Pierre yet again. It's astounding to me how Karen Jean-Pierre continues to whiff over what should be easy answers. These should be easy answers. It's almost as astounding as that if the White House had settled on either the first black press secretary, or the first gay press secretary, we might actually have somebody who would be competently doing the job. Okay, but they decided to go for both black and gay. So yeah, if only the White House would have settled on either having the first black press secretary or the first gay press secretary, we might actually have somebody who would be competent enough to do the job. Okay, but we had to get both. We had to check both boxes. Here's what I would have said if I was Joe Biden's spokesperson standing in front of the official seal of the White House to make sure the White House's position was perfectly clear. First, I would point out that as a result of the Hamas terrorist attacks, communities and families are grieving. And for the past month, families of those who have been taken hostage are living in agony. There's families. They're putting up pictures of these hostages. Then I would make it clear. Progressive Hamas supporters tearing down pictures of those families and loved ones who are being held hostage by Hamas is both wrong and hurtful. And that on behalf of the President of the United States, I'm going to denounce the members of our party who are either doing so or encouraging others to do so. And I'm so excited because guess what? I'm looking forward to Karen Jean-Pierre's response today. The bipartisan congressional censure of the Democrat House, the Democrat Hamas caucus member, chairwoman, Rashida Tlaib, they voted to censure her. So I'm looking forward to her response today. I'm sure she's going to address it at the press conference today. But wow. Karen Jean-Pierre, what I would have done is denounce the tearing down of those pictures of those families, those loved ones who are being held hostage by Hamas right now. It's wrong. It's hurtful. And these progressive Hamas supporters and the members of the Democrat Party who are encouraging this or who are tearing down these photographs themselves, like Rashida Tlaib, they need to be denounced. There's only two ways we can view President Donald Trump's fraud trial in New York. And look, I'm very excited to talk about Donald Trump in this trial because he gave some really powerful testimony. There's only two ways we can view the fraud trial in New York, and I'm going to give you those two ways here coming up in just a little bit. Cities 92.9, The Morning Buzz. See me live in studio. That's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. We will be getting to the RNC debate a little bit more today. Vivek Ramaswamy, a highlight. He called Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, he called him a Nazi in cargo shorts. I thought it was hilarious. That's next. Good morning, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. If you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. And yes, Vivek Ramaswamy calling Ukraine's president Zelensky a Nazi in cargo shorts. And I thought that was absolutely hilarious. Vivek Ramaswamy, what he failed to mention was that the Ukraine ambassador is a self-proclaimed Satanist, where she, via an email, invited the Podesta brothers. If you don't know who the Podesta brothers are, they work on the Hillary Clinton campaign. Via an email, she invites the Podesta brothers to a spirit cooking. Okay, so Ukraine, this is not a matter of good versus evil, Russia bad, Ukraine good. That's not true. Ukraine is an undemocratic country. They are a terrible country. They're not even holding elections anymore. Okay, they said that they're not going to hold elections. They have been banning opposition parties. Um, they have state funded media. They have a one state media. This is not a democratic country. And we are sending our money over there. And guess what it's being used to do? It's being used to persecute Christians. And I find it ironic that we have a Hindu, Vivek Ramaswamy. It took a Hindu to get up there on the Republican debate stage and to denounce and to call out the persecution of Christians in that country. So we are going to be talking about that here coming up in just a little bit. Vivek Ramaswamy also blasting the RNC chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel, and apparently they were talking to each other. It looks like they were talking to each other, and I can see Ronna McDaniel going like this with her hands. And what's incredible is she told NBC that the two of them, Vivek Ramaswamy and Ronna McDaniel, did not have a conversation post debate. So I found that very interesting. We are going to be chatting about how Vivek Ramaswamy went after the moderators for peddling the Russia collusion hoax. He also mentioned the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop story. These are all things that you are not allowed to say. And Vivek Ramaswamy said them on the debate stage. And it's very telling. Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, none of them talked about any of it. And Nikki Haley, she called for more guns, ammunitions to be sent over to Ukraine. And, she goes, I'm against it because they're slowly trying to walk this thing back. The neocons are trying to walk this thing back where, we don't give money to Ukraine. Nikki Haley was calling for guns and ammunitions, more guns and ammunitions to be sent over to Ukraine. Why? Why guns? Why ammunitions? Why not just money? You purchase the guns and ammunitions anyway with American taxpayer dollars, and we're going to be sending them to Ukraine. Why the guns? Because she sits on Boeing. She sits on the board. She has these military contracts between these companies like Boeing, and she gets rich. She gets rich if she helps legislate, different military contracts with the government. She gets rich off of that, okay, because she sits on these boards like Boeing. And Vivek Ramaswamy actually called all of that out. He called out the military industrial complex. And it was incredible. And I was so excited to see Vivek up there. I think Vivek should be the RNC chair. I don't think that he should be VP or anything like that. Maybe he shouldn't sit on the cabinet for President Donald Trump. I don't know. But RNC chair, I think that he understands data. I think that he's innovative. I think that he's young. And I think that he's sick of the Republican Party, much like we are, much like you are. I'm pissed with the Republican Party. I am not happy, especially hearing that Ronna McDaniel goes up to Vivek Ramaswamy post debate and then says, "You're an asshole." And then she says, "I'm not going to give you money." She broke the sacred rule. Okay. The RNC is not supposed to be getting involved in primaries. And then she said that she's not going to be giving money to Vivek Ramaswamy post debate. That's what a source said, and that she was saying this all very, very loudly. And she booed Vivek Ramaswamy because Vivek Ramaswamy took a stab at Nikki Haley and Rhonda for being a Dick Cheney in heels. And it was just so perfect. If you guys watched the debate, let me know in the comments section and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Cat Peterson 99. I want to expand the show. I want to be able to bring you more content. And the only way I can do that is if you subscribe to the YouTube channel. So visit cities929.com today. We are going to be back in just about a minute. So hang tight, smash the like button if you're watching, and share this out with your friends. Woohoo! Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. It's a Thursday morning, 7:32 a.m. And, before we took the break, I was telling you guys a little bit about the Trump trial. Trump, he was in a trial, and he said it was political warfare, and he was defending his business record in this heated testimony. Joining me in studio, you know him, you love him. It's David Paul Blumenshine. David Paul Blumenshine, good morning. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, Kat. Hey, it's a beautiful morning. I'm ready. Once again, the weather is so delightful.
I was watching some weather reports, the weatherman on
Yeah.
the TV, and they're like freaking out. They're like, "Oh my gosh, it's like it's the warmest November that we've had in the past 10 years." And it's like,
10
okay,
years.
but like did you guys all have the frost that we got? I mean, we got snow already on Halloween. It was snow, there was frost. It's it's pretty normal.
It is pretty normal, but once again, for the abnormal, it is not right.
Yeah.
Yes, but nothing is right to them. That's why we are here, Kat, because we give you the right perspective
Yes.
and worldview, because they're not going to, because they've absolutely gone insane.
Mhm.
You know the difference between conservatives and liberals?
Hmm.
You know what? We don't lose our you know what if you don't agree with us.
Mhm.
They have nothing else to live for.
Mhm.
I heard you earlier about Jean-Claude Van Damme or Jean-Pierre or whatever her name is. She came back and recanted. I don't know if you heard that or not.
No, about that?
Yeah.
Really?
She had,
On Twitter. Didn't she do that on Twitter?
she had to come back on
Okay, but
Twitter.
here's the thing. She knows that that's going to get way less views than the clip of her going out there and not denouncing these pro Hamas supporters tearing down the posters.
Kat, once again, it is political warfare, lawfare, whatever you want to call it. In this instance of Trump, do you know on the stand he pulls out the proverbial out of his jacket, the piece of paper, and asked if he could read it for the judge, and the judge said, "Oh, whoa, 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 whoa! I don't want you to be reading something here." And do you have
Yeah.
that? Do you have that piece?
No, I don't. I don't
It's an
have that
article.
specific one.
I was reading it, and needless to say, it basically says that Trump in this financial dealing, was totally in the right. And the judge goes, "Oh, no, no, not at this time, not at this time." And Trump goes,
Yeah, it's because Trump didn't
Basically,
play
I
by the
figured,
rules.
yes.
He didn't get the script ahead of time. He wasn't reading from the script that the judge had made out for himself, right? This what's his name? Judge oh gosh. Arthur
Engren.
Engren.
It
Engren.
doesn't matter. Letitia James, all of these propped up players of the left. That's all this is. It's a script, right?
Mhm.
And they did it in marketplaces where they knew they would find favor. And it is. It's probably the media hype of those particular local markets. And those people truly, sheepishly follow anything that's being said.
I want to play a clip from President Donald Trump walking out of that trial. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Just immediately, the fraud was on behalf of the court. The court was the fraudster in this case. They made references to assets that were very valuable, and they said they had no idea. They had no idea what the numbers were when they said $18 million for Mar-a-Lago, and it's 50 to 100 times that amount by any estimation. It's a terrible thing that's happening here. We're taking days and days and weeks, and it goes on, and then you look at the outside world and what's happening. But of course, they're getting the wish because I don't have to be here for the most part, but I sort of do have to be here because I want to be here because it's a scam. And this is a case that should have never been brought, and it's a case that now should be dismissed. Everybody saw what happened today. Everybody saw what happened with their star witness who admitted that I never told him what he originally said. I did. He admitted that he lied, and he has absolutely no credibility whatsoever. That's their only witness.
So he goes on, and just to quote Donald, he says, "This is political warfare, as you would call it, or political lawfare, another name." I've got lots of names for it. I've got lots of names. And then he says, "Usually it takes place in a third world country and banana republics. Nobody has ever seen that to this extent. We've never seen it here."
Well, and he just mentioned it, they lied.
Mhm.
That's Jean-Pierre. Well, I can't even, like I said, I don't even bring myself to learn her name because she is by far.
Just call her diversity hire.
Yeah, the worst press secretary in the history of the position.
They had to check both boxes.
Yeah.
Imagine this. If we would have only checked one box, we might actually have a competent press secretary. If they only, if the White House would have just settled on either a black press secretary or a gay press secretary, the first black press secretary or the first gay press secretary, we might actually have somebody competent.
Or bring back Peppermint Patty. I mean, Jen
this was
Psaki.
just
I mean,
awful.
but the thing is, Kat, they lie. They know that they lie. They know that we know that they lie, and they continue to do it anyway. And everything.
Mhm.
That's what we seek. That's why Trump came out with Truth Social, because you really don't get a position from anything other than the ideological left of their worldview and how they see things manifesting themselves. And they want you to go along with them. And if you don't, you're a heretic.
Yeah, this is of course, in our listeners, to let them know, hey, this is the case Letitia James brought forward about the, inflating his net worth, inflating the worth of Mar-a-Lago, that kind of stuff. Because it's so hard to keep track of all of the indictments at this point. But Letitia James, she said during the trial, she goes, Mr. Trump has repeatedly and consistently misrepresented and inflated the value of his assets. And before he takes the stand, I'm certain that he will engage in name calling, taunts, and race baiting, calling this a witch hunt. And then, the judge, I mean, he was just rabid, and he said, oh gosh, what was it? He goes, another speech. He's referring to Donald Trump because Donald Trump was defending himself and speaking for himself. He goes, we got another speech.
Exercising his first right.
Yeah. And then he goes, I beseech you to get control of him. He's talking to Trump's lawyers. If you can, if you can't, I will control him.
Okay.
And then the judge says, I will excuse him and draw every negative inference that I can.
Yeah. Really, really cute, Judge. Really cute. But, if we want to talk about somebody's net worth, why don't we look into Letitia James? How did she become so wealthy?
Yeah.
How did Joe Biden become so wealthy? These folks never focus on their own crimes because that's what it is. It's a distraction. I don't know. Did you see the piece I sent to you, Kat, about Hillary Clinton yesterday on The View?
Yes.
Did you get to that yet? I'm sorry.
I have not gotten to that yet, but now is a great time, David Paul.
Yeah. Obviously, when we talk about gaslighting and knowing, because we are the people who are racist. We're the people who are xenophobic, transphobic, mean spirited. We don't like people. We want to throw people off buildings. Oh no, that's the people that you support on the left.
The Hamas. Yeah, I know. Hamas. They're the ones who throw gay people off of buildings. But yes, queers for Hamas. That makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
We're going to play that Hillary Clinton clip when we take the break. We're going to come back. Hillary Clinton actually referring to making the comparison that President Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler.
Like Hitler.
Yeah.
I didn't say he was Hitler. I said he's like Hitler. That excuse.
Unbelievable. We're going to be back here on the Morning Buzz, Cities 92.9. And I've got a question. Do government officials know how the real world works? Because since when did we start having city officials be more concerned with protecting incompetent banks? This case was a political clown show. The Donald Trump trial was a clown show, nothing more, nothing less. Based on the judge's comments that I just talked to, would you say that the odds of Trump's appeal being successful have increased significantly? I think Trump is going to definitely make an appeal. Okay. This judge it's innocent or it's guilty.
Until proven innocent.
It's guilty until proven innocent in this case. So we're going to be back next on the Morning Buzz, Cities 92.9. Folks, you're listening to the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. Cities 92.9. We're talking about Judge Engoron. And if you take the ENG off of it, replace it with
usually
an N.
stands for English and put an M.
Yep. Moron.
Yeah, that would be
Judge Moron. I like that better.
But Judge Engoron, who is deciding the non-jury case, because he wouldn't want to have a jury decide this, that threatens Trump's New York real estate empire. So Donald pulls this piece of paper out and he says, "Not at this point, not at this point." And Trump says, in the Trumpist way he can, Trumpist, "I'm shocked that the judge won't let me read this particular document that would basically clear him of any wrongdoing."
Wow. Oh, Trump didn't get the memo. He didn't get the script in advance, I guess. He didn't get the memo that he was supposed to follow the script that Judge Engeron was following.
Just take off the NG, put an M.
Judge Moron was following. Yep. He didn't get the script.
Useful idiot.
Yeah. And it's just so sad. Prosecutors pressed Trump on changing the value of Trump Tower from 327 million to 116.8 million, which came after Forbes had reported that he inflated his net worth. So that's according to CNN. They're saying that he inflated his net worth.
Where are the victims?
Yeah.
Who's the victim in this case?
No. Well, and there's a couple of things that
the banks have been paid in full. They're not complaining that Trump, misled them in any manner. They received their money back in full.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and then also, hang on.
Cat's doing some housekeeping on the programming.
So also, in order to try to understand, we can view the Trump case in two ways. And I wrote this down. Either the prosecution is not aware that the banks perform their own risk assessment prior to giving loans.
Yeah.
Or we can pretend that banks do not perform their own risk assessment before giving loans, and that it's actually the job of elected officials.
Yeah.
Okay. Otherwise, nothing the prosecution does will make sense to you. So you got to pick one of these.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to pick one of these views. You have to either pretend that the banks don't perform their own risk assessment and that it's actually the job of elected officials to do this.
It's called commercial underwriting. Yes. They have to underwrite the loan.
Yeah.
There's banking rules and regulations. I mean, what do these people, when they talk about, I heard you reporting on this particular situation where they say that the reason that black votes are coming alongside is because those people aren't just knowledgeable. No. Unfortunately, they're becoming exposed to the truth.
Yes.
That's why they're coming along.
Well, in the Democrat
this is a perfect
Party
example. You're not telling the truth. If you told the truth about what truly happens in business, and because they don't like it, I mean, is there, with Trump's assets, you can leverage off of assets. I will tell you, a developer here in town had 10 people with $100,000. They took 10 people, that's $1 million. They went to a bank and said, here we are, we're a group, and we'd like to borrow $8 million. And we're going to put up $1 million as collateral for this project. The bank does an underwriting process, right? Risk assessment on behalf of their lenders. Banks have investors. I'm sorry, I misspoke there. Banks have investors. That's what they're looking at, risk assessment for their investors. They made a decision, let's go with it. Next thing you know, Ironwood Gardens was built.
Yeah. Yeah, so there you have it. I mean, that's how banks work. And like they're trying to, and there's only a few ways you can view this fraud trial in New York.
Yeah.
And you have to pretend like that's not what banks do. Like they don't do a risk assessment, this underwriting that you're explaining. You have to pretend that they don't do that, or you're not aware that the banks perform their own risk. Like the prosecution isn't aware that that's how that works.
Yeah.
Like they're either ignorant, they're pretending that that's not happening, or here's my third option, which this is how I view this trial. It's a witch hunt. It's a politically motivated witch hunt. So there you have it.
It's election interference. What else do they have? I mean, Kat, they're going to continue to do the same playbook. They've got the long periods of times for all their elections, 40 days, some states 45 days plus the adjudication. So they've got plenty of time.
Oh, I'm excited to
go
through the RNC debate. Did you watch it?
I didn't, but
you don't have to.
I know I saw snippets of it, but you're right. We need a new RNC chair. Vivek would be good. Lee Zeldin would be good. Ronald McDonald, it's time to go. Oh, I'm sorry. Rona McDaniel. No, what is her name?
Rana. Rana?
Rona
Rana.
Romney McDaniel.
Rhonda? Is it Rhonda?
No, it's Rona.
It's Rana. Rana McDaniel.
It's like Corona, isn't it?
Rona?
I don't know.
I think it's Rana.
We got on this the other day with Sorensen.
Sorensen.
Sore. Just think sore. Sore bottom.
Sore bottom. Eric Sorensen. He was up early this morning and tweeting again, and he did What Would Jesus Do? He does the WW.
Oh, of course.
What Would Jesus Do? WWJD.
Yeah, okay.
And I guess there's this church that's baptizing transgender people, and he shares it, and I'm just like, funny. You recently came out and mocked people for their religion.
Yeah.
Now you're saying, what would Jesus do?
Yeah.
Eric, come on, buddy.
Eric, you're very confused. You're a confused person.
Yes. Also want to talk about how it took a Hindu on the Republican debate stage last night to call out the persecution of Christians in Ukraine. No other candidate did this except Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
He called out the horrors that is the House of Horrors, as I like to call it, Ukraine. This is a terrible government. They're undemocratic. They even have come out and said that they're not hosting their 2024 elections anymore.
Yeah.
But yet we're giving them money.
Well, it's like anything. The Dems keep lying, and once again, the Republicans don't have a backbone to stand up and defend themselves.
I want to lay out these three views of this Donald Trump trial because it's kind of hard because there's so many different indictments against President Donald Trump, and people are like, okay, what's this one for? Well, this one is because Letitia James is trying to get out there and say that, well, Donald Trump inflated his net worth, his value. He inflated the value of Mar-a-Lago. And there's only a few ways you can view this Trump trial in New York, the fraud trial in New York. Either the prosecution is not aware that banks perform their own risk assessments prior to giving loans, or we can pretend that banks do not perform their own risk assessments and actually and that's actually the job of elected officials, that the elected officials have to do the risk assessments, right? Otherwise, nothing the prosecution does will make sense to you. So you got to pick one of those two views, or you can pick my view, David Paul's view. This is a witch hunt. It's politically motivated. That's why this is going on.
Yeah.
The banks do their own risk assessment before giving out loans. They're saying that he inflated his value and he was frauding the banks, essentially, and he was committing fraud to try to get more money because he increased his value. That's what they're trying to say he does.
Do you know what the scariest subject is for the left? Subject matter. Economics 101.
Economics 101. Like, come on. Like, yeah, the banks, even I know that. I am not an economic person. I don't do economics. The extent of my economics is, do I have enough in my bank account to pay my car loan and go get a cup of coffee this morning?
You're an American.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how that's the extent. And then I look at my paycheck and I'm like, wow, they do really take out a lot for taxes and for Medicare and for Social Security, things that I probably will never collect on in my lifetime because the national debt or the debt is insane. But
for your wonderful audience, Kat, and I so appreciate all of you that are listening here in the Drive Time Hour. There's a local developer, or was a local developer, who launched a bunch of commercial projects in the Bloomington, Normal, McLean County area.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Jack Snyder. Yes, aka Jack Snyder of Snyder Companies, which is now Tentec. We like the people at Tentec, our friends at Tentec.
Go Charlie.
Yep, go Charlie. Jack went out and got a group of people. They each gave $100,000 into the pool. There were 10 of them. I might have my numbers off a little bit, but for strict purposes of just laying out how this process works. 10 people, $100,000. They have $1 million. They go to a bank and they ask the bank, we have $1 million. Can we borrow $8 million? $7 million more than what they have to secure the loan, right?
Mm-hmm.
The bank looks at the project, the underwriting and everything else, and lo and behold, you have a development of multifamily like Ironwood Gardens,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest is history.
Mm-hmm.
The bank has $1 million, plus they have the development.
Mm-hmm.
So if it goes south, they have $1 million, plus they have the development. They have to believe that the development is going to return on the investment.
Risk assessment. That's what the banks do.
That's
They
what-
do it themselves. The
That's
elected
right.
officials don't do it.
Commercial underwriting.
Yes.
It happens when you get a mortgage too, or give a mortgage, because you don't get a mortgage. You give a mortgage to the bank.
Yeah,
That's
well,
the
they give you a
security
loan,
you give.
and they do their own risk assessment to give
Yes.
you a house.
That's right.
Like, this is just such basic economics. And, the only two ways that you could view this is, look, the prosecution isn't aware that this happens and they don't understand basic economics 101, or they are pretending the banks don't do
Well,
their own
first
risk
of all,
assessment.
economics is market driven, and that's what scares them. The
Mhm.
market. They want to control.
Yep.
And when free markets are allowed to act, that's scary to them.
Yep.
They feel somebody's deprived, actually.
They're probably peeved off that the banks gave Donald Trump loans for things that were successful, and they're
You mean
probably
ones that he
peeved off that
repaid.
the big banks didn't invest in Becky's app. Like, that's what these big banks do. And the big banks like JP Morgan, these people, what they'll do, they'll come out and they'll throw their money behind an app for, I don't know, dog walking or whatever, who knows, and they mess around with your money.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the evil of big banks, right? This is where big banks, they do a risk assessment and then they decide on that risk assessment. And so now I'm getting down a rabbit hole and I'm saying that big banks are evil and money isn't real, and then they just throw money into these projects that are complete crap. But yeah,
Just like Tentac and Schneider, Donald Trump Enterprises repaid all their loans.
yes.
The victim is not the lender. The lenders aren't bringing suit.
Mhm.
Letitia, I encountered a lot of money over my time in politics. James is the one who is on the hunt
Mhm.
for Red October.
Mhm. Mhm.
We
We do have to talk about the RNC debate.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that in the 8 o'clock hour. Some things we've got to talk about.
And the guy like Hitler, we have a Hitler.
Oh,
amongst
yeah,
us.
we do have to get to that clip, because actually, let's play that now. We've got that pulled up here. Hillary
On The
Clinton
View.
comparing on The View Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. What? This is just nonsense.
Because
Here we
Hitler.
go. Let's take a listen.
And then they would try to do away with elections and do away with opposition and do away with a free press. And you could see it in countries where, well, Hitler was duly elected. That's right. Right?
We're the Democrat
and so
Party and
all of a
Obama.
sudden, somebody with those tendencies, those dictatorial, authoritarian tendencies would be like, oh, okay, we're going to shut this down. We're going to throw these people in jail. And they didn't usually telegraph that. Trump is telling us what he intends to do.
Oh, gosh.
People would get legitimately elected.
You talk about gaslighting. Everything you just said is what you people are doing.
You.
It is you. I identify as a
J6er.
habitual liar. I mean, how they like Hitler.
Yeah, I like Hitler. Or Donald
Trump
Trump
is-
to
It,
Hitler.
but you know what? Did you catch the part on the front end of that? She said get elected legitimately, didn't she?
Mhm.
Because she, up to this point, she said he was an illegitimate president. Which one is it? Was he illegitimate or a legitimate president, Hillary?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and here's my thing, the J6ers, right? And there was this guy, and I will never forget Police State watching that film. If you haven't watched it, you need to go watch
I
it.
need to get there. I need to get there.
It's
So much
insane.
out there. I want to watch it. Definitely.
And I feel like I've done a disservice behind this microphone because I've not talked about this not nearly enough. What's going on to those currently imprisoned and what happened to Matt. He was a gentleman who was looking at like about 6 months for trespassing.
Mhm.
Then they slapped on a terrorism charge.
Yeah.
Guy freaked out.
Yeah.
Was told that he was going to spend 20 years in prison for being in the Capitol for 15 minutes, didn't touch anything. He was in the ropes, pointing at things like a terror or a tourist, and they charged him with terrorism, and then he kills himself. I mean, she's crazy. Clinton, you're crazy. We're back next. David, Paul, and I. Good morning, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Vivek Ramaswamy, completely explosive. He calls him out. He calls out the RNC and he says, Ronna McDaniel, why in the world do we have NBC journalismers sitting here in front of me moderating this debate?
Yes.
He goes, would Greg Gutfeld do a Democrat debate? Would he moderate a Democrat debate? Would the DNC hire him to moderate the debate? No, of course not. Gotta take a phone call.
Take a phone call. Take a phone call, Cat. Cats on cities.
Good morning, folks. We've covered so much. We've talked about Kieran Jean-Pierre, how she refused to condemn and to denounce the Hamas supporters who were ripping down these hostage posters. And she said, I'm not going to comment on that particular thing. Apparently, she recanted. She came out and she apologized for not doing that via Twitter. I didn't even bring that up this morning because here's the thing. She knew, Kieran Jean-Pierre knew that if she just came out and did this kind of half apology on Twitter, then it'd be fine because it's already out there and you've already you've already said it that you weren't going to denounce these people who were ripping down these hostage posters. So we talked about that. We talked about how this Democrat representative says that black voters leaning towards Trump just don't understand how any of this works. And the Democrat, well, the famous line from President Joe Biden, we all know what Democrats think, right? If you have a problem figuring out if you're Trump or for Biden, you ain't black.
You ain't black enough.
You ain't black enough. Gosh, so racist. I don't know how these people get away with saying these things.
Yeah.
Right over there, David Paul Blumenshine. David Paul, how are you? How are you?
I'm doing well today, Kat. We're ready to hit it, right?
You look bright-eyed and bushy-tailed this morning. You get some rest last night?
I did. And what's kind of cool is my daughter came back from Nashville, and sometimes when you have your children sleeping in the household, it's such a comforting feeling. I don't know if you can really explain what it's like to have your offspring, in your house. There's something that is amazing about that. And it's hard to explain as a parent other than that they're there resting. Actually, she was still resting when I left. I think she was up a little late because she has a crazy lifestyle down in Nashville. Her husband is a Nashville police officer. So, and they have another roommate still because this is all new to them in their life together. And so two cops, it's kind of like Three's Company.
Now, I'm assuming, and I haven't heard anything from you, so I'm assuming that they are both protected from the NPD where they took 7 officers and they put them on administrative leave.
Yeah, you know what, Tana's husband is future husband. Yeah, actually husband. Hannah knows that with his service to our country in the National Guard, he's not going to get caught up in that.
Yeah.
Because there is corruption throughout every aspect of our lives. And how hard is it to stay free from that? And if you tell people that you work diligently to be free from corruption, then something's wrong with you, right? And we were just talking about that with Mike Johnson.
Yeah.
And his son.
Yeah. And Donald
keeping
Trump.
each other accountable for, their trafficking of, or I should say their time on the internet.
Yeah.
When
Covenant Eyes.
screen time. Yeah. Screen time. They want to track. I said trafficking. I meant track. They want to track their whereabouts. They want to know, I'm a perfect, that's something I've always adhered to. I think I've said it on my own show. And so you can always catch me on DPB show on Sundays from 1 to 3. If I can't give my daughters my phone, then there's something on there that I'm trying to hide from you.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think is really cool about the Trump family. His kids have access to everything.
Oh, yeah. And
they know
they're
everything.
tight. They're tight.
And they're very tight.
Here's the thing. We were talking with Larry, shout out to Larry on the telephone, and we were talking about how these people are just jealous of Mike Johnson, the fact that he doesn't have to disclose and financially disclose a statement. So if you make over $5,000, you have to disclose this as a member of Congress. He's only been a Congress critter for a little bit of time. I call them all Congress critters. It's just it's a weird world that they all live in. And it just doesn't even feel real. Most of them, right? And Mike Johnson is one, it's kind of odd that he doesn't have a financial disclosure statement, which means he probably hasn't made over $5,000 to where he has to disclose that. And what the left and what the mainstream has done, they've tried to demonize him and tried to say that he's corrupt somehow, some way, because he hasn't disclosed this money, the financial statement. No, really, what I think is going on here is you guys are confused about how he's not making money hand over fist from the constituents on the campaign trail. And he's not using this money. He's not using the representative role to make money. And you guys just can't wrap your heads around it. And you're peeved off that he's made something of himself and he's making his own money. And you don't like that. That's the same thing with Donald Trump. They don't like that he was successful and that the banks gave him loans because they did their risk assessment and they picked a winner. They don't like winners.
No.
They don't like winners because
They like
feel
chaos.
victimized
That's
by
right.
the winners.
Well, I mean, we were just talking about Nashville.
Mhm.
Once again, a Democrat mayor in Nashville. So you got to realize that your city government controls your police department. You know, cover-ups from LA to New York to Nashville to anywhere that is you are seeing it. Chicago.
Mhm.
These people are doing damage control at a rate that I can't even keep up with. Because they have to. I mean, they've got an open border. They've got migrants coming into our country illegally.
Mhm.
Some are stopping by and getting their papers so they can get a court date 4 years from now or whenever. But they're dealing with that, an influx of people coming into their communities. Are some of them criminals? By all means, criminal activity. Desperate people do desperate things. You know, they already had a rise in crime based on their policies, based on the way they govern. You know, so is it any surprise in Nashville, Tennessee, that we don't hear anything about this crazy mass shooting or
Mhm.
this mass shooter until some officer said, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I can't do it anymore. Here's what I know.
Here's what I know, and I'm going to link this. And, you know, it's incredible. Those Nashville police officers, big prayers up for the people who are placed on administrative leave. It just goes to show you they care more about the leaker. They care more about
The
this
truth. They care
investigation.
more about the truth. Let's
Yeah.
all get back to it. This is there's not a truth, there's the truth.
Mhm.
And that's the problem in America today. Everybody has a version of what's true.
Yeah. And the police there, they care more, or the police chief and the people who place these 7 officers on administrative leave, what they care more about is this leaker and the fact that the truth got out there than the actual contents that are in the manifesto. I have yet to hear the police chief there come out and say, "Oh, well, what's in this manifesto is terrible. We're praying for the victims of the family. This was a hate crime. This was an anti-white motive." I have yet to hear anybody come out and say that the motive is clear. This was racially motivated,
Charged, yeah.
racially charged, and it's clear by the manifesto. Who's coming out and saying, "Hey, now we know that this was a hate crime. We're going to deem it as such, and we know the motive of this criminal, who the general public has a right to know. They have a right to know, was this racially motivated? And we still don't know because there's a video out there. There's 20 journals that this deranged person, Audrey Hale, had.
A
We
video,
still
yeah.
don't have those 20 journals. We still don't have the video. So there's still so many more questions I have. Was this a religion thing? There's been talks about how she went into this chapel and she
Hey,
shot
Kat,
the
can I ask you a quick question about this?
Mhm.
Is there going to be a trial?
trial. Yeah, do you have trial? I don't even know. I don't know
No,
the
you
law.
don't. She's dead.
Yeah.
She's dead.
Mhm.
You know, it's time that we become honest about our discussions. That's why it's hard for me to even look upon some of these folks out there on the left. You know, I think I was given the example of the gentleman who decided to stand up at the McLean County Executive Board meeting when they were seating the replacement for the John McIntyre as he vacated the chairmanship and the seat in District 5 County Board. And there was this young person, or not young, there was this union representative from the teachers union.
Oh, Ben Matthews.
That would be him. get up and give some bloviating statement about how he represents 2,000 teachers, but yet he wanted to take Chad Burke and myself and disparage us as being, like Hillary Clinton said, like Hitler.
Yeah.
We should be awful scared. This is what these people do.
Mm-hmm.
And they do it at every level. It is, I was telling our very own Kevin Ferris this last night. Sal Alinsky and the Rules for Radical. If you have not read it, get a copy. Go to the internet and just read the 12 rules or 13 rules. Is it 13 or 12? And read the rules. This is their playbook. Obama told us that this was their playbook. He was friends with this guy. This is what they do in every aspect of their lives. Because you know what? You know who the enemy is, Kat? You and I.
It's the establishment versus the rest of us, or it really is a cabal of elitists who just get money hand over fist in military industrial complex, which is something I also wanted to talk about today. Vivek Ramaswamy, and this is exactly what we're talking about, and he calls them all out. He got up on that debate stage and he just was so sick of it, and he wasn't messing around. He had an amazing night at the Republican debate. I've got to share this with you, and it's everything that you and I are talking about right now. Here's Vivek last night. You're gonna like this, David. Here we go. Let me get the question. So the question from the NBC moderator. I'll include that here. Here we go.
Why should you be the nominee and not the former president?
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I am upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer to the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018, 2020, 2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership, asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party. You think the Democrats, and we've got Kristen Welker here, do you think the Democrats would actually hire Greg Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate? They wouldn't do it. And so the fact of the matter is, I mean, Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real or was that Hillary Clinton made up disinformation? Answer the question. Go.
Mr. Roberts.
This is how we get our country back. We need accountability because this media rigged the 2016 election. They rigged the 2020 election with the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
and they're going to rig this election.
Your time is up.
Accountability.
Let me turn to Governor Christie.
I'm sure your time is up. Whoa, wow.
You're telling the truth, so we have to move on.
Well, and you're right. He's denouncing, he's calling balls and strikes. And this is what the modern GOP, when you look at the two-party system, it isn't actually two parties. Bongino was talking about this yesterday. It's four parties. Because we truly have a disconnect. We have a nominee for president that the people are getting behind, the grassroots, the majority of Republicans, Donald J. Trump. However, there's still a faction that, is holding on, trying to undermine the entire
the people.
Yeah, the people's voice. So the Republican Party has a candidate. The Republican GOP, or the Republican Party, known as the GOP, has an image problem. The Democrat Party, it doesn't have an image problem when it comes to their party. It does when it comes to their nominee, Joe Biden. And so that's why there's four different factions of these parties. And it gets back to this, Kat. When are we going to see genuine conversations? That's what I respect about Vivek. At least he comes out and he he calls it out. You
Yeah.
know,
He's
right,
not
wrong, or indifferent.
dancing around important issues for the sake of appearing civil or gracious.
Yeah.
Right. And because that is cutesy time is so overrated.
Yes.
Dancing around the important issues, the corrupt media that peddled the Russia collusion hoax, that suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop story, and therefore rigged the 2016 election and the 2020 election. These are the important issues. The fact that we have the RNC having these NBC journalismers moderate a Republican debate when we have people like Tucker Carlson who will do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan.
Dan
Elon Musk,
Bongino. I
Dan
mean, there are
Bongino.
people who represent our view. Why are they not out there?
Mhm.
You know, the Democrats would never do that.
No.
The
No.
Democrat, let's wait well, first of all, will there be a debate? Do they even have a nominee? Or will there be such a crisis in the land, the United States of America, by the time we get around to that they totally suspend elections in of itself? Who knows? These people are crazy. They see statistically what is
No,
happening.
I know. They're already planting the seeds. Atlantic, New York Times, headlines
Salon
that read,
magazine.
will we have, do elections matter in 2024?
Yeah.
Elections are overrated. Like, these are the headlines that are coming out of the American media. And
Kat, Salon magazine publishes this. Mega and Christian nationalism, bigger threat to America than Hamas could ever be. They put that in print. I'll share it out onto our Facebook page. And the other subline was, even Mitch McConnell is trying to push back against Mike Johnson and the mega I can't, my view, the mega lunatics. It isn't working. November 2nd, 2023. You can go out there. This is by Brian Karam. They published this in a publication that a lot of leftists view, Salon magazine.
Mhm.
Mega and Christian nationalism is a bigger threat in America than Hamas could ever be.
Wow. Incredible. We're going to unpack more of the debate last night. You were talking about the 2024 elections. You know what country isn't going to have a 2024 election for sure? Ukraine.
Yeah,
And
according to
Vivek,
Zelensky.
yeah,
Yeah.
Vivek came out and called it all out. He called it all out. I'm excited to play the next clip from Vivek. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to play the clips from Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis because they want wars in Iran. And Nikki Haley is sitting on the board for Boeing and she wants to send more guns and ammunition over to Ukraine so that way she can continue to line her pockets via these military contracts. But we're going to be back, David Poplar.
And we already have a candidate in the Republican Party. His name's Donald J. Trump.
The people
Let's
spoke.
get behind
In fact, there was a Donald Trump chant.
Yes.
At the RNC debate.
The RNC debate.
Trump, 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 Trump.
The RNC/DNC debate.
Yeah, that's next. The people have spoken. I almost knocked my coffee over.
The single-digit percenters need to get behind the nominee.
Yes.
And they have a hard time with that.
Yeah. Well, and Vivek, I mean, the question was, what would make you a better nominee over Trump? I mean, I don't think that he really answered that question.
No, because he took an opportunity to blast him.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe, and I don't understand why Levin's got such a distaste for Vivek.
Well, and here's my distaste for Vivek.
Yeah.
And just being a Christian, I'm a Christian conservative in that order.
Yeah.
Vivek is a Hindu.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, and I know that sounds bigoted or whatever. You can call me whatever you want.
Yeah.
I am for Christian values first. And despite Vivek saying that he is, he understands Christian
values in his life. He understands Christian values.
He is a Hindu. And
yes, and I agree. And I agree. I truly, if you're faithful to your faith tradition, then you support and you defend your faith tradition.
Yes. And that's odd to me in and of itself, because if you are truly about your religion, right, and if you are truly a Hindu, which you are. He says that he's a Hindu. I mean, that's not anything that's a secret. He understands, like, how could you govern and how could you be the president of the United States and still uphold Judeo-Christian values and govern that way if you actually don't have them yourself? And going out there and lying, because that's a lie.
So think about
You're
this,
living
though,
a
Kat.
lie.
So think about this, Kat. And I'm going to challenge and push back on that.
Oh boy.
With this. Most people from India
Mhm.
who are now Christians were converted from Hinduism.
Mhm.
So you've got to realize that a lot of people from India are Christians now. Now, were they always Christian? India, obviously, as the whole geopolitical scheme of things, as they pushed into those countries, Christianity, as our evangelizers were doing, the missionaries, they were trying to bring the gospel of Jesus Christ to areas that have not
Been exposed,
acknowledged,
yeah.
to Jesus. So somewhere along the line, Christianity is a part of India. Hinduism is part of India. Islam, I should say, is part of India. So all of these traditions, faith traditions, they do coexist to some degree. It is when suddenly we decide that one should rule the world, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to do that.
Mhm.
And that's what we're seeing in the war of the Middle East and the attack on Israel. And with that, since we defend and protect and support Israel as a Judeo-Christian nation, Judeo-Jewish Christian nation, we are a target. And that is just part of the program. There's going to be more. The best is yet to come and the worst is yet to come. There's going to be more examples of persecution
Mhm.
against the Christian way of life
Mhm.
and the Judeo-Christian way of life.
Yeah, and here's the thing about Vivek, and yes, I do agree. The Hinduism.
That was really long. I'm sorry.
Muslim, it becomes a problem when one takes over the world. Now, however, I do think that being Judeo-Christian, that's vital if you are going to be the leader of America, because it's founded
Do you know
on those.
when the Hindus have ever gone on the offensive in a war?
Probably never.
Well, think back to Gandhi, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
So
know.
there was a time when they tried to defend their way of life. It wasn't very successful because Hinduism is, for what it's worth, I mean, I defer to Pastor Timothy James Farrell for this, is a very peaceful religion.
Mhm.
All right. That's what they believe in. They believe in
Peace, yeah.
peace. It just is who they define as peace. Where the Nation of Islam believes in dominating the world, ridding the world of any infidels,
Mhm.
which you and I would be infidels because we don't believe in Islam.
Yeah. It's just what I thought it was crazy that it took a Hindu. I mean, at least somebody went up there and talked about Ukraine and how they have been persecuting Christians in that country and how they've banned the opposition parties, 11 different opposition parties, and how they aren't even holding elections anymore. And it took a Hindu to do that. So, I mean, we are asleep. I think Christians are asleep in this country. We should be talking about that. And Ron DeSantis says that he's a Christian. Nikki Haley, right? I didn't hear any of them talk about that. And in fact, even after that was brought up, Nikki Haley continued to say we should be sending weapons over to Ukraine. So we're going to talk about it here
Hot
on
off
the
the
bus.
press. the Department of Health and Human Services has rolled out a new gender pronoun policy that one Heritage Foundation expert and former HHS official says violates employee rights and will result in firings of misgendering, meaning that if we don't misgender or if we don't go along with
That's what the DHS, right?
Make believe, yeah. The Health and Human Services, HHS.
HHS, yeah, I talked about that. Woo! Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. David Paul Blumenshine right over there. It's 8:30 a.m. Good morning. We've been talking a lot about the Republican debate. I do want to play this clip from Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy, he's a Hindu, and it took a Hindu on a Republican debate stage to talk about the persecution of Christians in Ukraine and to talk about how Ukraine isn't as good as people say it is. It's not Russia bad, Ukraine good, and we have to fight Russia with everything we've got. That's just not true.
Yeah.
Ukraine is a terrible country. It's undemocratic. We are not fighting for democracy by providing aid to Ukraine. David, I want to play this and I want your reaction. Here we go. And folks, you can see clips of the debate on our live stream. That's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. I suggest you go to Rumble. Always go to Rumble, give us a follow, subscribe to the DPP show on YouTube. That's the DPP show. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Ramaswamy, are you persuaded by President Zelensky's urgent new plea?
I'm absolutely unpersuaded. And I'm actually enjoying watching the Ukraine Hawks quietly, delicately tiptoe back from their position as this thing has unwound into a disaster. The first half of this race, I was the only person standing for it. Now they're actually quietly coming around to being more cautious, as they should. Level with the American people here. Ukraine is not a paragon of democracy. This is a country that has banned 11 opposition parties. It has consolidated all media into one state TV media arm. That's not democratic. It has threatened not to hold elections this year unless the U.S. forks over more money. That is not democratic. It has celebrated a Nazi in its ranks, the comedian in cargo pants, a man called Zelensky, doing it in their own ranks. That is not democratic. More facts for you that you won't hear from the mainstream in either party or the mainstream media. The regions of Ukraine that are occupied by Russia right now in the Donbass, Luhansk, Donetsk. These are Russian-speaking regions that have not even been part of Ukraine since 2014. Those are the hard facts. And so to frame this as some kind of battle between good versus evil, don't buy it. And I'd like the likes of the sharpest of the war hawks on Ukraine, Nikki Haley, to have some accountability and answer. Do you want to use U.S. taxpayer money to fund the banning of Christians? That is actually what's happening. They're using the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. They have banned them. The Ukrainian parliament just did this last week, supported by our dollars. And I think you owe it to the American people, Nikki, to at least this one time at least condemn.
Thank you. That's time.
At least to condemn their banning of Christians.
Mr. Ramaswamy.
Wow.
Mr. Ramaswamy, it's time to stop telling the truth. We got to move on because we're all uncomfortable with your answer.
Mr. Ramaswamy tells the truth here and then moves on because there is just no way we can allow that truth to be spouted out.
Vivek, you need to spend your time on Truth Social and Rumble. Please avoid coming on mainstream media and divulging and exposing these people for who they are.
Yeah, well, and I love it. He said, oh, we didn't have to have this on mainstream media. That's the RNC. We could have had Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson moderate the debate. You
Greg
guys
Gutfeld.
So now,
I'd love to see Greg Gutfeld. That would be a hoot.
That would be fun.
How about the five?
Yeah,
how about to have the five up there as a panel, interviewing these 6 or 7 or whatever.
Yeah.
The pretenders that are on stage,
tune in for
including Vivek. But I do believe Vivek is staying in. Obviously, can self-fund his own campaign because he's a worth
millionaire.
Hundreds.
He's a biotech millionaire, which is where I kind of distrust him a little bit.
But at the same time, the advancement of culture is going to happen with or without us. Is he doing it for the right reasons? I don't know. I don't know enough about any of these people. I'm kind of like Dan Bongino when it comes to politicians. I don't trust any of them.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I can't be friendly or friends with them, but I'm always going to ask them questions at the heart of the matter. But yeah, get the 5 on there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and he took this opportunity. He was like, I'm on mainstream. I'm going to bring everything out right here on the debate. So he was on a different
He has
stage.
nothing to lose. He isn't dependent upon lobbyists.
Yes.
He's a self-made, well, I mean, self-made. Bottom line is he's centered around people who have helped him realize the money he has.
He's not a politician.
He's not a politician.
And he doesn't get rich off taxpayer money.
Exactly.
He doesn't have a salary that's literally comprised of
And he talks
taxpayer
about his
money.
background. He's worked for it. That's the other the four-letter word, that evil four-lettered word, you know, to the liberals out there. Work.
Yeah. Well, and I was just so excited when he said Zelensky was a Nazi in cargo shorts. I was like,
cargo pants. Yeah.
One thing he didn't mention was that Zelensky appointed that ambassador who's a Satanist.
Yeah.
And she is caught on emails inviting the Podesta brothers, who worked on the Hillary Clinton campaign, mind you, to a spirit cooking.
Yeah.
So that's where our money is going.
Kat, I'm going to tell you right now, sin is in. If you want to know what is going on culturally around the world, is we are leaving God behind. And when I say God, there's only one true God. And we are leaving God behind because we are denouncing, thank you, Vivek, for denouncing the persecution of Christians around the world, because that's what's at stake here. They know what the world's largest religion is. It's Christianity.
And, I love it when they were asked questions about Israel. A lot of them were like, well, Nikki Haley wants to get into a war with Iran. I'm convinced of that. So does Ron DeSantis. So does all of them. I mean, Senator Tim Scott said that he wants to get into a war with Iran. Chris Christie said that we need to defend Israel with all we've got. And
no, we don't. Israel can defend itself. Get out of the way.
Well, that's what Vivek said. He says that they can defend themselves.
Yeah,
we can
stop
stand behind
trying
them.
to obstruct them and conditionalize all of the ways that we will support them. Stop conditionally. Let them have their way.
Well, look at the money that we're sending to countries like Yemen, Libya, Syria, all of these Arab countries. And that's what Chris Christie said. That's what we've been doing for years under Barack Obama, Joe Biden. We give all of this money to these friendly Arab nations. And they're only friendly for maybe a year. And then 5 years from now, they probably invade Israel. Okay. So if we stopped giving money to these other Arab nations that give us nothing in return for that money, we just give it to them. Right. And if we stop giving $6 billion to Iran, these things will never happen. If we just stop working against Israel, because that's what the U.S. is doing. Joe Biden can get out there all day and say that he supports Israel and give a $60 billion here, there to Israel. It doesn't matter because he is outspending. When you look at all of the other nations around Israel combined, that shouldn't be there in the first place, right? Those countries they shouldn't exist. It should be Israel. The state of Israel was promised, and there's very clear border of what Israel should be. But there's these Arab nations, and we're giving what in total, I think when you break it all down, we're giving those nations so much money in comparison to Israel. If we were to shift and just stop giving that money, we would actually have a net gain.
Yeah.
We would have a net gain, and Israel would be able to defend itself if we stopped giving money to these people who want to kill them.
Are you familiar with the term hedging yourself?
Hedging yourself, yes.
Do you know what hedge funds are?
Yeah.
So basically, you bet against both, right? So you as an investor, an individual investor, Kat, you take your money. They're going to bet. You take $100. $50 is going to go to it performing, $50 to non-performing. Either way, guess who makes money? The man in the middle, controlling the strings. They want the money, and it's our money. And they're hedging our economy based on supporting countries who are not favorable to the American way.
Yes.
And then they're also saying that we support countries that are favorable to the American way. So which one is it?
Yeah.
That's why Trump is so adamant about being an exceptional nation, nationalism, contrary to what Salon magazine says. He believes in the Constitution because that's what we are. When Ben Franklin said, "We've given you a constitutional republic," if you can keep it. And it's been going on since those days, 200 plus years.
We're going to be back on the other side. So after this little thing where we played the clip where Vivek Ramaswamy actually blasted the chairwoman of the RNC and called for her to resign and to get up on stage and resign right there that day.
Yeah.
They were seen talking with each other after the debate.
Yeah.
So there's a source, Timcast News, has got this story, which
Timcast. Let's have Tim do the debate. Wouldn't that be great?
literally anyone else but NBC. Like, come on.
Lester Ford. Oh my goodness. Jeez.
Good morning, folks. This is Cities 92.9. If you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. Vivek Ramaswamy, backed by George Soros. Yeah, like I said, I don't really trust a whole lot of what Vivek has done in the past. But if you look at George Soros's money, it's hard to find out, if it's George Soros's money or not. They've had a complete stronghold on every business and every facet of life. Right?
This is another, but think about how many billionaires are on the side of the American way. There are plenty of billionaires on the side of the globalist way, the World Economic Forum way, right? There's plenty of billionaires that are fully in step with that. Even Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, Bill Gates. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, try to find billionaires that are truly supportive. And I'm not talking about, any of the issues at hand. I mean, you name it, whether it's energy, whether it's truly the American way of life, there are not a lot of supporters, billionaire supporters of the American way of life and what our Constitution stipulates as a constitutional representative republic. Just doesn't happen.
Yeah. So when trying to make a name for yourself or when trying to have success, right,
Yes.
which is what Vivek Ramaswamy, there's not a whole lot of kitties you can pull from,
Yeah.
pools of money you can pull from
Yeah.
that aren't corrupt.
Yeah.
Because all of the people who have money are against America.
Show me a great fortune and I'll show you a great crime.
Yes.
Yeah, that was an old saying and it still applies today.
Mm-hmm.
Follow the money. Bongino comes out in the first chapter of Follow the Money and lays out the argument of what's going on in Ukraine. Get the book.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't benefit from telling you about getting Bongino's book. He's not giving me any kickbacks. Go
You've
and
read
the
it?
book. I started. I'm about halfway through it. It's like any of those books.
You know what book I
get
really
so
like?
captivated by it. I need to spend more time reading and less time on the screen.
Yeah, me too. I need to spend more time reading.
However, to remain sharp, and this is part of it, to keep up with the idiocy and the lunacy of the left, we have to be on the on because they're never going to stop.
Yeah.
That's the fascinating
Yeah,
thing.
what was I watching? Oh, it was like these protests, LGBTQ protests, Palestine protests or whatever. And I was thinking to myself while I was watching these, I was like, you never see anybody protesting or getting out there and rallying behind Christian conservative values, things that we stand for.
Oh, yeah, you do. Once a year, the Right to Life March.
The Right to Life March. Yep.
And why is there such? They have basically buried that so deep, which is what they do.
Yeah.
And when they lie and they have to recant it, they bury it. It's on the third page. I will say this, at least kudos to the Panagraph for putting Sonny Garcia's night in protest on the third page.
The protest.
The night of protest.
And the
it
third
doesn't matter
page.
what he's protesting something.
Yeah. Always. Sonny
He stands
Garcia.
for humanity, except when it comes
Former
to killing
Bloomington
babies.
City Council candidate, but surely when he was running, he had to pull out of that race because of some prior convictions coming up to the surface.
Yeah,
where
from
he was
his days of protesting. The guy's always been a protester.
Oh yeah, they were drinking and driving convictions.
You know, drinking, driving. Come on. You used to be able to do that. And he's right. You did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back in the 70s, they didn't arrest you for drinking and driving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
Sonny's just
pro-Palestinian rallies, it's a mess. Those the college kids, they don't know. They're just ignorant.
but it's so hypocritical because if you're really truly standing against genocide, then why aren't you adamantly talking about the millions and billions of lives that are affected by this thing we
Abortion.
call abortion?
Boom.
You know, I'm sorry.
They
I
don't
don't
care
want to
about
hear an
genocide.
argument about, oh, you're pro-birth, you're not pro-life because you don't want to take care of them. No, you're right. We need to do a better job in adoption. We need to have more government programs that are truly helping people function rather than just reproduce.
Yeah.
You know, and incest and rape. Okay, you're going to come up with that argument. I'm going to give you that small percentage. Okay, I don't agree with it, but I'm going to give it to you.
Mhm.
Let's talk about all the lives that 100% of children that are conceived go on to live
Mhm.
or not. Everybody alive today was once conceived.
Yeah. They
That's when
wanna
life
talk about,
begins.
guns killing people. They wanna talk about, that and how
Genocide, that's the big one.
genocide. Let's talk about abortion then.
Yeah. Keep pushing in.
Woohoo! Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. I've got some news coming out of Timcast News this morning, and I think it's true. I hope it. I hope that we find out later today. But Ronna McDaniel's out there, I believe, lying. So there was a source sitting next to Ronna McDaniel, and this source told Timcast News that she was not attempting to keep her voice lowered at all, and she called Vivek Ramaswamy an arsehole. And then she said that the party wasn't going to be giving him a cent anymore. And she was flailing her arms.
Because she has so much money to give away.
Yeah, come on. The RNC has nothing.
Well, the GOP has got a problem. It's unlike the Democrat Party, which doesn't have an image problem when it comes to their party. They have an image problem when it comes to their presidential nominee.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the opposite is true for the Republican Party. Trump is the party. Unfortunately, the GOP has an image problem. And partly because of the shenanigans of years and years of repeat, rinse and repeat, thinking it's going to get better.
And I've got to play this clip. You got to take a listen to this because this is incredible. This is from NBC, and they start kind of like play-by-play things that are happening on the stage after the debate. So this is after the debate and the candidates file out. Let's take a look.
It looks like he's speaking now to Ronna McDaniel. Can't make her out exactly, but it looks like they may be having the exchange. Look, this was a big debate. Vivek came out here. He attacked the moderators. He attacked the media. He attacked the RNC for setting up this debate the way it was. And for a lot of the debate, he was on the attack. It was Vivek first, the rest of the room. When we look at the rest of the candidates and who received a lot of that incoming, we start with Nikki Haley. It then goes to Governor Ron DeSantis, who was center stage, of course, the hometown hero, if you will, in his state of Florida. And then Vivek in third place, getting other attacks as well. But he clearly was on off. It looks like he's speaking now
So
to
hacky.
He said the word attack 6 times.
Attack. Yeah, Vivek was on the offensive. He was attacking. And
no, he was trying to put forward what he believes is happening. That's what a healthy debate is about.
Yes.
You can,
and they demonized Vivek for speaking out.
Yeah, they had to. They had to spin it, right?
They had to spin it.
Because what they allowed him to speak openly on their media platform, the fake news platform.
The fake news, NBC. So Vivek Ramaswamy seen there with Ronna McDaniel. There's video footage. We played it here on the live stream. You can kind of see her, kind of. I thought it was her.
Yeah.
And her hands are like this. And the source says that she called him a derogatory term, and then also said that she wasn't going to be giving him a cent, which is, I think there's a rule in the RNC. You can't get involved in primaries.
Well, they do.
They do.
Yeah. So the NRCC, the National Republican Congressional Caucus, has their candidates. That was the big deal between the Freedom Caucus and Kevin McCarthy's people. That was part of the deal making at the beginning of this year. They said the Freedom Caucus, if Kevin went along with their objectives, that they would agree to not endorse or to promote candidates. Neither group, the Freedom Caucus nor the GOP, really has any money because people are weary.
Mhm.
When Trump is on the ballot, people turn out. You can't deny the numbers.
Mhm.
And some people will say, yeah, but they also turn out on the Democrat side. Yeah, I get it. 81 million votes. Yeah. Unfortunately, I will never believe that, no matter how many times you tell me that Joe Biden got 81 million votes.
I don't believe
it's
it.
just like the governor of Kentucky. He won over all those Republican voters. Give me a break.
At 2020, 25%. That's how much more Donald Trump had in that election. I just don't. Yeah. But one thing about Ronna McDaniel that I want to point out before we cut to break. Ronna McDaniel, she told NBC that she did not talk to Vivek Ramaswamy after the debate. But I don't know. The video says different. It looks like the two had the conversation. Vivek has yet to comment about the matter, but
well, she didn't talk to him. She just screamed at him. There's a difference.
I'm curious what comes out after that, or after this debate. Did the two speak after the debate? I don't know. We're going to be back next here on The Buzz. David Paul Blumenshine, Sunday from 1 to 3. Coming up next, I'm going to tell you where you got to be tonight. Good morning, folks. Thanks so much for watching. If you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. We're going to be back in just a little bit. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. And the end of the show is here. Another show archived on YouTube for you. You can check it out. Subscribe to my channel. That's Kat Peterson 929. And I'm going to be in Shanahan tonight.
Yes, you are.
I'm going to be interviewing Pastor Stephen Lee. He's being indicted alongside President Donald Trump. The government has been weaponized against those who are religious.
Police state.
Police state. And poor. This guy, if they can do it to Pastor Stephen Lee, they're going to do it to you. Pastor Stephen Lee is the most outstanding citizen and upstanding citizen that is known to America. I mean, he was there dragging out bodies from Columbine when the shooting happened. He was there at Ground Zero as America's chaplain after 9/11. This guy is exemplary. And now we have big fat Fannie Willis trying to indict this guy and convict this guy. So we're going to go and we're going to talk with Pastor Stephen Lee, 6:30 tonight at the Family of Faith Church in Shanahan. That's Families of Faith Church in Shanahan. And I'll be there 6:30 tonight. You guys should come. It's free and open to everybody. So just come to the church. David Paul, what's your show going to be about?
Too soon to tell. I know it's Thursday, but Kat, there's big stuff coming down the way. But always we're going to be dealing with the corrupt world that we live in. But knowing this, the best is yet to come. Unfortunately, the worst is yet to come too. So we're going to tackle both of it and keep our hope high and our spirits lifted up, because ultimately it just doesn't matter in the end what happens on this world. It's the next.
It's the next. You guys have a great rest of your day. Tomorrow, doing a best of show, because I am going to be in Shanahan tonight. So doing a best of tomorrow, plugging that in. You guys are going to really appreciate the interviews that I've done pre-recorded for you tomorrow. So tune in tomorrow morning.